In this demo, we'll work with pods in Kubernetes. I've got an elevated Windows PowerShell prompt open in my Windows 10 professional machine, but first I'm going to go over to my text editor and show you the README for this video. To get up and running and follow along in this demo, you'll need to run these commands to start Minikube, check the kube control version, get the nodes, and then deploy an application to Minikube or on that node. Then you can get the deployments, get the pods, note the name of the pod because we're going to execute a command directly against the container in that pod. Then once in the container or on the application, what we'll do is we'll do an apt-get update. We'll install curl, do a curl localhost, and then exit. So let's go back over to PowerShell and keep this in mind that a pod is an abstract entity in Kubernetes. It represents a group of one or more application containers like a Docker or Rocket container, as well as some shared resources. And those shared resources could include shared storage, known as volumes, networking, so you would have a unique cluster IP address, and information about how to run each container, like the container image, the version, or ports to use. Also, pods are the atomic unit on Kubernetes platform. So when we create a deployment in Kubernetes, that deployment creates pods with containers inside them. And this is opposed to creating containers directly like Docker. Each pod is tied to the node where it's scheduled and remains there until termination. In summary, just think of a pod as an application-specific logical host, and that pod may contain different application containers, in which case they should be tightly coupled. For example, a pod could include both a web server container along with another container that feeds data to be published by the web server. The containers within a pod, again, share an IP address and port. They're always co-located, co-scheduled, and they run in a shared context on the same node. Okay, so I should be able to type the following: kubectl get pods. Okay, and there we see the name of the pod that's running on this machine. So I'm just going to highlight the name here, right-click to select it, and now we'll execute a command directly against the container in that pod. But keep this in mind. What we're doing is we're accessing the pod using the command line interface tool kube control. So let's type kubectl. Actually, before we do that, let's just clear the screen by typing CLS, pressing enter.